Chants of Sennaar is a superb puzzle game about translating hieroglyphic languages by exploring and observing strange and beautiful worlds. It's another game in this ever-growing genre of contextual and explorative puzzle games that's already filled with great titles such as Return of the Obra Dinn, Strange Horticulture, The Case of the Golden Idol, and even Outer Wilds. And Chants of Sennaar takes elements from all of these games and combines them with puzzles similar to those found in Heaven's Vault. Now that is a mighty list of modern indie classics, and genuinely, Chants of Sennaar now sits comfortably among them. The main reason to play Chants of Sennaar is the clever design of its puzzles. How do you go about translating a fictional hieroglyphic language? You start the game as a robed figure emerging from a sarcophagus in some sort of underground tomb, and after walking through a couple of corridors you find yourself at a locked door with a lever next to it. On the wall to the side there's also a sign with some indecipherable glyphs on it, one set at the top and another underneath. When the lever is pushed up, the door opens, and when it's pulled down, the door closes. So I wonder what those glyphs might be referring to. The game tests your understanding in the very next room, where the flow of water blocking your path is controlled by a series of 6 valves, and there's a list of 6 symbols on the wall next to them. These are the symbols from the previous room, and maybe they can tell you whether each valve should be open or closed. And this is the fundamental basis of how to translate languages in Chants of Sennaar. It's using contextual clues from the environment around you. A sign next to a lever probably tells you what that lever does. A marking on a mural probably describes the events being depicted, and a signpost probably tells you what you'll find if you travel in each direction. Things may be slightly more complicated when, instead of reading, you're talking to one of the game's many inhabitants, and the contextual clues are slightly different. What does it make sense for a person to say in a location like this? What does their appearance suggest they might talk about? Is there an animation or an action that could imply what it is that this person wants to say? The more words you learn, the better your guesses will be in newer situations, as you have fewer words to figure out. But also because there may be clues in the languages themselves. There's been a real attempt to make these glyphs feel as though they're a part of a genuine language. As you discover multiple symbols, you'll start to notice certain shapes or details that are shared between multiple words. So if you see this detail in a new, untranslated symbol, maybe it shares something common with another word in terms of its meaning or its grammar. These small details might be enough to give you an idea of what a word means, or maybe you'll need to see the same symbol in a few different situations. But however a word is translated, Chants of Sennaar always makes you feel exceptionally clever for noticing the right details. In particular when you use the text entry to make an early guess at the meaning of a glyph, only for the game to later confirm that you were exactly right, and potentially before the game even expected you to know it. If you manage to translate every symbol in a language, the game also plays a little celebratory confirmation, so try not to translate the final glyph of any language while standing behind a pillar. Once you've figured out enough of a language, you can then start applying what you know in the world around you, with newly translated pieces of information helping you figure out where to go or how to solve some sort of puzzle in the overworld. And while you won't need every individual glyph to be translated, it's only by translating words that you'll have the knowledge to progress to the next level. The design of these levels or areas deserves praise on its own. While the puzzles of Chants of Sennaar are excellent, they are also backed up by exceptionally strong design in the game's worlds. Each area is visually distinct with its own colour scheme, its own unique mini-language, and its own varied inhabitants. The visual style is simple and low texture that let your eye be drawn to important details for gameplay, but still creates beautiful surroundings through the design of the grander structure. Most of the game is played with a wide-out fixed-angle camera that lets the player scan for words and clues, but also gives the spaces an opportunity to shine and sets up some exceptional visual set pieces. But the design of each location goes beyond the visuals. Each place has its own vibe and themes and culture. The translations don't just help you solve puzzles and progress, they add detail and background to a world that you will be so curious to explore, in each area individually, but also how they all connect together. In some places, Chants of Sennaar even sells the vibe with some additional mechanics, namely some generic stealth sections that I've buried deep in the video because I know that people don't really like these. And yeah, I wouldn't have guessed at the language puzzle stealth crossover genre either, But these sections are short, infrequent, and do actually sort of work, so if you despise generic stealth mechanics, in no way should that put you off playing Chants of Sennaar. When I saw this game release, my mind immediately jumped to Heaven's Vault, another game about translating a hieroglyphic language and one of my favourite video games of all time. And personally, I was delighted that Chants of Sennaar works with the same gameplay idea without treading on the feet of Heaven's Vault at all. While Heaven's Vault focused on this open, sprawling detective story with one deep hieroglyphic language as a through line, Chants of Sennaar instead uses several much smaller and more focused languages and creates a world as a puzzle to solve them. These are two incredible titles that approached the same concept from completely different directions, and both created something excellent. If you enjoyed that aspect of Heaven's Vault, I want you to play Chants of Sennaar, and similarly if you're watching this video having played Chants of Sennaar already, then I highly recommend taking a look at Heaven's Vault as well. Chants of Sennaar is about 9 to 10 hours long and is a game with a genuine magic to it. I think this is the best game of 2023 so far, but I am going to say that without thinking about it too deeply. Regardless, this game has so much quality to it, and I'm clearly not the only one who thinks so. If you're a fan of creative world design, genuine exploration, or engaging thematic puzzles, I can think of nothing better than to give this game a chance.